We're being arrested. We have been nervous, dreadfully nervous ever since the beginning of our project, but we were never mad.
Why will you say that we are mad? Oh no, we are sane, very sane, even more sane than you are. You see, it hasn't always been like this.
We were test tube babies, cultivated and born in a secret laboratory. We were treated as animals, as specimens, because that's what we were. We were twins, bred from the same egg, and from that moment on, we only had each other.
In the corner of the lab, there was a virion filled with amphibians. Frogs, salamanders, and Sicilians were a daily reminder that just like them, we were imprisoned in a world of cruel and inhumane experiments.
There was something about them that disgusted us, be it their strangely complex metamorphosis or their territorial behavior.
In our moments of loneliness, their incessant croaking drove us crazy, and our hate for amphibians festered. Even today, the thought of amphibians are repulsive, for they are so strongly associated with our memories of the lab.
Imprisoned, we could only watch the scientists work, and by observing what they did, we gathered knowledge and became nothing short of geniuses. In truth, we were the only successful experiment of theirs, and even we failed them when we finally broke out at the age of 15.
Using the money that we had stolen from them, we rented a basement from a nice old man and began doing what we knew best: experiments.
Oh, darlings, did you hear that the big country fungus is wiping out amphibians everywhere? Oh, did you want some cookies?
Those creatures are repulsive. They deserve it. I concur. I have an interesting idea. But first, we'll have to examine the mechanism of the chytrid fungus.
Oh, you darlings are just so sweet and adorable and smart too. You girls have fun. Call me.
Let's begin. So what are amphibians? I guess we need to learn more before we begin.
The class Amphibia includes vertebrates that are ectothermic, meaning their internal temperature is no different from their surroundings. They are known for their life cycle, metamorphosizing from aquatic larvae into terrestrial adults. They characteristically have moist, thin skin, for they all share the ability to exchange gases, or breathe, through their skin. The adult stages of some species don't even have lungs and are completely dependent on breathing through their skin.
That's pretty cool. Well, let's see which order will be best suited to our uses.
The Anura order, also known as frogs, is most well identified by its distinct larval and adult stages and an extreme metamorphosis in between. Let's begin from the larval stage. A general frog larvae, better known as tadpoles, has a basic body which can be separated into the tail and the rest of the body. No arms, no legs, nothing. Once a tadpole starts growing its legs, it's reached metamorphosis, but it can be months and in some cases years before it gets to that stage. Till then, it eats and eats as much as it can, usually algae and whatever else it can find. Eventually, the tadpole will grow out its hind legs, forelegs, take in its tail, and in most cases grow lungs. It's now in its adult stage, or frog, but even if they're terrestrial now, they, like all amphibians, require their skin to be moist so that they can breathe through it. Though they've grown lungs, the frogs will still take in half of their oxygen through their skin. Its diet will be composed of insects, but really it will eat anything smaller than itself. Here's a lovely off-the-wall fact. When a frog in some species eats something poisonous or something bad for them, they throw up their whole stomach into their mouth and uses one of their webbed hands to wipe away the foreign substance. Fun fact, sometimes frogs blink when they're eating. What's really happening is that they push their eyes into sockets in the roof of their mouth, which helps push their meal down their throat. Now that they're adults, they're probably interested in making some babies. When two frogs are ready to mate, they go into an amplexus formation, usually in a water source. Generally, the smaller male climbs onto the larger female's back for two reasons. One, so that he can grasp around her and push her eggs out, similar to a Heimlich maneuver. Two, they store their eggs or sperm in their cloaca, so this positioning puts their cloacas closer to each other. The female then releases her eggs, and the male at the same time releases his sperm, so that the closer proximity increases the chance of eggs being fertilized. The eggs group together into a kind of gelatinous blob so that they can stick to something like a plant or a stick. In many species, the male will even carry the eggs somewhere like on its back or its legs. Then the cycle starts all over again.
Wow, so I guess Anura just refers to frogs. What other types of amphibians are there?
The order Caudata is just a fancy term for salamanders, slippery, slimy salamanders. Yum. Within the order Caudata, there are two more subgroups, commonly called newts and sirens. In fact, salamander is just a word for amphibians that have a tail in their adult form. What's the difference between newts and sirens, you ask? Well, newts typically spend most of their time on land, while sirens generally have lungs, as well as gills throughout their whole adult life. Unlike other amphibians, sirens are lacking hind legs. In place of them, they have a strong tail to help them maneuver around the water. Fascinating, huh? Salamanders, like frogs, have moist skin, but like lizards, they have a thin, rope-like body, including a tail. It's no wonder why people occasionally mistaken salamanders as lizards. Depending on their habitat and lifestyle, salamanders can have webbed feet and short toes, perfect for an aquatic salamander. Or they can have no webbing at all, perfect for diggers like the tiger salamander. Enough about what they are like on the outside. It's the inside that truly counts, right? Salamanders enjoy all kinds of meals, depending on their size. Many land and aquatic salamanders eat insects and other creepy crawlies, and they are strictly carnivorous. No plants, ever. Meanwhile, aquatic salamanders may also enjoy a nice meal of whatever small crustaceans they can find. Now to our favorite subject, reproduction. There are some species of salamanders with a very complex mating ritual. One species would have the female begin the ritual by straddling the male's tail and placing her chin on the male's dorsal posterior side, followed by even stranger steps. In terms of the actual reproducing of salamanders, the male salamander deposits a sperm packet called a spermatophore in an area which is later picked up by the female and placed into her cloaca. The egg is fertilized within the female, therefore most salamander eggs are internally fertilized. There are some salamanders that reproduce by externally fertilizing their eggs, such as sirens. After the eggs are laid by the female and or fertilized, which is called oviparity, the typical parent salamander would slink away like nothing happened. These potential salamanders are already left to fend for themselves from day one. As baby salamanders begin to develop, most either never metamorphosize or partially metamorphosize. Unlike their cousins the frogs, salamanders do not go through complete metamorphosis.
And last but not least, Gymnophiona. Ew.
Caecilians are part of the order Gymnophiona, also known as Apoda. The word Caecilians is derived from the Latin word cecus, meaning blind, as Caecilians have partial or no vision. They are legless amphibians with a small retractable sensory tentacle. To most people, Caecilians look like colorful worms, but they are actually amphibians. The average person has probably not seen a Caecilian before because they live in tropical areas, and most live underground or in water. Although amphibians generally lack scales, many Caecilians have fish-like scales on their skin. The aquatic Caecilians possess a fin to aid them in movement across the water. Caecilians actually have jaws and teeth like other amphibians, and they feed on small invertebrates like insects and worms. Most species of Caecilians have lungs, and only two rely solely on their mouth and skin to obtain air. Caecilians are the only group of amphibians to fertilize internally. Most are viviparous, but some are oviparous. Most mating rituals for Caecilians are virtually unknown, but some aquatic Caecilians have been spotted performing a dance before mating. Most are born already developed, but still go through some type of metamorphosis in some point of their life. Just like all other amphibians, Caecilians are also ectothermic.
Wow. Okay, let's learn a bit more about chytridiomycosis first. Wow, I wasn't aware that there were so many threats to amphibians. Guess we'll just be another one of those threats.
Chytridiomycosis is caused by the chytrid fungus. It's deadly to amphibians, primarily frogs and some salamanders. Chytrid fungus spores spread from one infected amphibian to a new host through either direct contact or infected water sources. Once it finds a new host, the fungus infects the amphibian's skin. It changes the keratin layer in the outer skin, causing infected patches of skin to become rough, thick, and more water-resistant. This is bad news for amphibians since they exchange air, absorb water, and absorb some vital salts through their skin. From here, they can die for a number of reasons, like not being able to absorb enough water, suffocating, or a heart attack due to loss of salt. Though the chytrid fungus has existed for a while, animal trades in the past century and improper animal disposal has led to it spreading to new parts of the world, and thus to susceptible new hosts.
Wow, time to find our carrier for the chytrid fungus, the common coqui frog. These frogs are small tree frogs that are brown, yellow, or green. They have special discs on their feet that help them climb trees. They mostly live in forests, but only in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands, which means that they won't be able to spread the chytrid fungus very far. I guess that won't really work. What else? The mountain yellow-legged frog. Wow, it lives in California, just nearby. Unfortunately, I feel like its extreme susceptibility will cause it to die off before it can spread the chytrid fungus too far. Oh well, let's try something else. The axolotl. I've heard a lot about this, but I never really knew what it was. It seems as if these weird tentacle thingies are actually external gill stalks lined with fimbriae called rami, and they extend from behind the head.
Apparently there's also a caudal fin from behind the head to its vent. It only lives in Mexico, though, in Lake Chalco and Lake Xochimilco. Japanese giant salamander. It's extremely aquatic and nocturnal, and only lifts its head above water surface to obtain air. However, it's confined to flowing water. No natural predators, but it seems to be listed as near threatened, and it's susceptible to chytrid fungus. But I don't think it'll work as a carrier. Finally, Pacific chorus frog. It's mostly green or brown with a pale or white underside and a dark patch on its throat where the vocal sac in males will be there. It has a black or dark brown stripe from the nose to its shoulder and has sticky toe pads for climbing. It seems to have a large territorial range. Oh, this is perfect. It can live with the fungus, and it's actually a very common carrier of chytrid fungus. Also, it's pretty cool. It can change colors. I think we found us our carrier. Let's get to work. Ha 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 ha.
After obsessively experimenting and plotting for months, we were ready to put our plan into action.
We were to release the Pacific chorus frog at a nearby creek that had a large amphibian population. There, they would be able to spread the chytrid fungus quickly, and the infection radius would only grow from there.
To keep track of which areas our frogs were reaching and infecting, we inserted trackers into them.
From the safety of our little lab basement, we would forever change the world.
Amphibians all over the world are dying out in what researchers are calling the newest pandemic.
Over 1,000 frog species are now extinct, with other amphibian populations steadily decreasing. These deaths are attributed to a sudden outbreak of chytridiomycosis.
With the sudden decline of amphibian populations, the insect population has suddenly bloomed and are the highest that they've been for the past 5 centuries.
Scientists everywhere are scrambling to find a cure for this deadly fungus, but to no avail. As they race against time, we can only hope that a cure comes soon.
With the catastrophic decline of amphibian populations and rise in insect populations, pests are now everywhere. Malaria has been on the rise as a result of the booming mosquito population, and the countries are being ravaged. In this time of crisis, we cannot help but wonder, what caused the sudden outbreak of chytrid fungus?
Take a look at something. I was cataloging the amphibian population in the area, to see the effects of the chytrid fungus. Well, I noticed something I'd never seen before. This frog has something I've never seen before. It has a tracking device on it. No company, no logo. I suspect something's illegal.
Well, isn't there any way you can backtrack the track?
We will find who is responsible for this.
Well, I suppose I could. Location secured.
Let's bring those criminals to justice, to infinity and beyond!
In our efforts to rid the world of our perceived evil, we only succeeded in bringing the world to its knees.
Within ecosystems lie a fine balance between all populations, and amphibians have been the heart of many such ecosystems. By destroying them, we disrupted that fine balance and destroyed the world along with it.
We never meant to harm or to hurt the world. We only tried to change an aspect of it. I can hear the voices now, all around me. They say we're crazy for trying, but we needed a way to cope with our painful past.
So you see, we're really not mad. We're simply human. Just like you.
Go.
I need you to take a look at this.